Money is something that people don't talk about. Like, they don't talk about their sex life. They don't talk about politics. There's just things that people don't talk about. So I think if you could be vulnerable about some things around money and how you were raised with it, it allows yourself to realize why you're the way you are. So just normalizing that for people, couples, and then realizing that money's just the tool. We don't have to be a slave to it.
Welcome to the Sock Drawer Podcast, where life is messy, but we always find meaning in it. Every week, we pull out the stories, the lessons, and the hidden gems. And then we ask the big question, keep it or kick it? If you're ready for real talk, brave steps forward. I'm your host, Lisa Begley, and you're listening to the Sock Drawer Podcast. Let's jump right in. Hey there, Sock Drawer family. Have you ever stepped into a new season of life only to realize your money story is still stuck in the old one? Welcome back to the Sock Drawer Podcast. This is the space where we talk about the parts of life we don't always want to sort through. Money, transitions, identity shifts, and the quiet questions that come with them. Today's conversation is especially important because money tends to get louder during reinvention seasons and then quieter about what we actually need from it. My guest today is Marc Shaffer. Marc is a certified financial planner, an accredited investment fiduciary, an enrolled agent, and the CFO and principal at Scarcity Financial Services and Alos Investment Advisors. He has spent over 20 years helping individuals and families think more clearly about money, not just numbers, but decisions, relationships, and long-term well-being. And really what stood out to me about Marc is that he approaches financial planning with humanity, hard to find in that realm. His work and his book, One for All, it centers on connection, service, and building lives that actually feel aligned. Marc, you've been doing this work for a long time. Welcome back to the Sock Drawer Podcast. Now, what's one moment that you can look back on and find that really changed your approach to financial planning?
That's a good question. I would say that it's relationships and who's inspired me to make a difference in people's lives. Money just happens to be the tool. So I was first in college and a major in the College of Business, and discovered there was a major in the College of Human Ecology at the time. And the degree on my wall that you can't see behind these computers says Family Studies and Human Services. So not financial planning, although it's very intertwined and has now been rebranded to personal financial planning, is the degree at K-State.
Really? So is that across the board at any Kansas City, or is that across the board at all universities?
That's interesting. There's lots of financial planning programs around the country, and they aren't producing enough to meet the demand of great financial planners. Yeah. We have a few that have graduated from Utah Valley University that are working for us remote out of Salt Lake City. They focus on the relationship side too. I think that K-State does a great job focusing on, people, goals, insight, money scripts, money backgrounds, but some of them are just in the College of Business, and that's less about that. So it depends on the school, and I don't think there's bad way either or, but I'm particularly proud of me coming from the program that focuses on relationship. And the college philosophy and the whole College of Human Ecology was, in a people focused on things, in a world focused on things, we focus on people first. So
it's so good. And I think, so many people don't recognize it like that. Getting a financial planner or having a financial planner, there's so many variables to that and what that can look like, and not realizing that it is about people and emotions. And where was the point that you feel like you realized money isn't just about strategy, it is about people and emotions? Was there a defining moment for you there?
Yeah, I think just the way that I got introduced to considering the profession was my parents saved some money for me and gave me the opportunity to go to college. And since I did well from securing a scholarship that paid for a lot of it, they said, you can do whatever you want with this money, meaning be smart with it, but meet with our advisor. And the advisor was, I want to say younger at the time, maybe in his late 30s. And that's what introduced me to money now, money later, money freedom. Like, what can you do with this? And as a young 18-year-old, when I started this journey with having my own investments, it was more of what can I buy with it? I bought a motorcycle, and it wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like $100,000. It might have been like $20,000, which back then you could pay for college education with that if I didn't keep the scholarship.
Yeah.
I did keep the scholarship and used the money to do a few things and introduced me to the money side, not the relationship side. But
Yeah.
I was so interested in the helping people, money just became the tool to do it, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I love that you're doing that. And many of my listeners, they're kind of in this like reinvention season, right? Second careers, retirement transitions, burnout recovery, maybe divorce, or simply just reassessing their life. What tends to come up financially in these types of moments?
I think that with the way the world is set up now, and I look at this screen and I've got 50 emails coming in. So a lot of people, not really, but you know how you're
I
always
do.
on with
Yeah.
alerts, and there's a
Yeah.
phone right here, an iPad. I think that people never slow down or are
Mhm.
intentional enough to realize what they want to do with money or what freedom means to them. And part of the financial planning process for what we do with our team, and I think great financial planners do it all over the country, so we're not unique, is that they slow people down enough to ask the questions to get them, if it's a couple, getting on the same page. Like if I have young kids, so my wife and I, we get home, we take care of kids, we feed them, and we might not even talk to each other in a real sense in terms of what's going on. We still have date nights, which that's when we really get to do that.
Yeah.
But
Cute.
it's good to kind of redefine what you want next week to look like, next year, 30 years, and then if there's legacy, 100 years and beyond,
Yeah.
and orchestrate it in a way that someone opens up the door that it takes the limitations out of it. A lot of us only think like, well, I could never leave a legacy. Well, if you think like that, no, you can't,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Not with that attitude.
Yeah. So it's not that everybody has to have that impact, but some people, if you don't start thinking about it, there's something to be said about the subconscious mind, and working towards whatever that could look like.
Yeah.
But the financial planner's job is to present ideas, help direct, guide, and I believe challenge people into what they want to be as it relates to the best version of themselves.
Yeah. And I feel like there's hope that's involved in there somewhere. Like, I think people come, maybe come to you and they just don't think they can do that kind of thing. Maybe they're too late or they're too far, into their season of life that they feel
Yep.
like they can't do it. What do you think the biggest misconception of people have when they're trying to get their finances in order that they don't quite understand?
I think that the mindset around money is important, and that might be a chapter of life. And if you recognize that you're acting out of scarcity, it impacts every decision you make.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like money, like retire, I'm never going to have enough. Or I have too many expenses. I can't do something different if I tried. And that's not really the answer. The answer is, what's your priorities? Like you could do things differently, but if the priority is to live today and figure it out later, then you're going to do that. But part of what I like to do is say, if you do this for the next 20 years, this is where you end up. And they go, I don't like that. Well, how do we, one, change it, and then two, motivate you enough to do something about it so you can take action today?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm answering your question, but some
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
need to be
you are.
shown the path they're naturally going on. And I really am an abundance mindset person. And some people come in and they've just known the answer is more for so long that they're living up today for the unknown. And when they meet with us, they are on track for that. And a lot of times this focuses on retirement, but there's more to it than retirement. But for those people, it's like you've saved enough, like you have more money, do something else with it now. Like, unless something's changed, you're meeting that goal,
Yeah.
or you get ahead and you can do it earlier. But I think the mindset around it, and then abundance, to feel good about spending money. Some people have a hard time spending money they earned or transitioning to retirement after a lifetime of savings to spending. That's an
Yeah.
interesting dynamic that I personally help a lot of people through, and I can tell I will have that when I get there too. So it's
Yeah.
not, you're not, you can't get out of it all. It's just a feeling.
It's just a feeling. How do you, I guess, coach? I'll use the word coach. How do you coach someone through looking at their finances and saying, you know, I, I just want to save, I just want to save, I just want to save versus, and I want to have it there, right? But versus the person who says, I want to be able to like do a million things when I retire. Like, how do you coach? There's the people like you just said, people that want to put their money in there and it's just there. But you also have to live your life, right? And this
Yeah.
is, I see couples like this all the time. Like, you know, one person is like all about the saving and
They're
it's got to
all a
grow
lot
the,
different usually.
so different,
Yeah.
right? And the other person is like, but you can't take it with you, you know, that's a mindset. How do you work through that
I,
with
I think
couples?
life ebbs and flows between both of those, but you're right. Everybody kind of has a center ground on where they come from. I
Yeah.
think Simon Sinek did a whole TED talk on why. Well,
Mm.
like getting to the why of what they are feeling so that they can work through prioritizing changing it
Yeah,
is a real thing, right? We
for
have a
sure.
client that does really well financially, but at the expense of not being around for their daughter. So I'm like, is your priority to have a bunch of money and die with it, or to be around when your daughter's young and wants to be with you?
Yeah.
And so there is always time to change. Some people always say, well, I've done it this way for 30 years. Like, if
Yeah.
you just have the mindset of that, then you're not gonna change.
Yeah.
And I I also say finances is a lot like working out. Like the hardest part is starting. So like don't think that you need to do it when you reach a milestone. Start heading in the right direction. You don't need to see the whole staircase, take a step, right?
Yeah.
And oddly enough, good spirals up just like it spirals down. If you can just get someone to nudge you into that positive movement in whatever you want, the rest starts falling into place.
Yeah.
But it has to be an open dialogue because a lot of people don't do things or change because of the busyness of what is the world today.
Yeah. I bet sometimes you feel like a almost like a relationship counselor as opposed to
So
finding
my
out.
the
Yeah.
degree at K-State, Family Studies and Human Services, I took classes like family relationships. So and that's interesting because they're single parents and I serve on a board that it's a Head Start program, but those families of no fault of their own do not have wealth and live at poverty levels and have kids. Like they come from a very different background and stuff that's hard to get out of where they can't dream as much. But I can tell you, I've been on that board long enough to watch some of the families transform and become very independent. So it's
Oh,
possible, but it's a much different background than I was raised in.
yeah.
So I think that my degree helped understand relationship dynamics going through loss. And
Yeah.
then when you get in the real world and practice financial planning, someone's fighting cancer every quarter, someone's
Mm.
getting divorced every 6 months, someone passes early, right? So,
Unexpected. Yeah.
yep, yep. So that's just and there's good too. Someone wins the lottery. I mean, like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
or
That happens. I never heard
success
of
in
it.
business,
Yeah.
or a promotion. So there's the good side of it too.
Yeah. I'm
But it can be a
sure.
roller coaster. And I
I
think I've
bet.
shared with you before, we help people with lots of money and people starting out. So that's very dynamic in terms of celebrating small wins. When someone is finally able to do $100 a month bank draft, that's different than the person
Amazing.
that meets $1 million
Yeah.
in their portfolio.
Yeah. Well, tell me, lead me into where the book came from. How did that start? That idea of was it kind of born out of all of these different scenarios that you've experienced, or tell me more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's behind me. I
I
got it
see
displayed right
it.
there.
One
Um,
for all. One
Yep,
for all.
in purple, which is my alma mater colors. It was born out of kind of a couple things, a request for a process to detail how I'm focusing on helping people,
Hmm.
behind the scenes focusing on the Irish proverb that I've learned to live by where you hand it out in slices and it comes back in loaves. So it wasn't an easy check the box list of do these 10 things and new business will develop and people will say, help me with financial planning. It was a culture of helping people. Other ways to say it is paying it forward, give to get. And so not to do it and expect it, but to do it in a way that's authentic and that is repeatable because in the busyness of life, if you don't have a process for it, things get busy and then it's not the priority. So there's always a
So
next
true.
step in what you should be doing with relationships as it relates to the importance of each one in my book. So really it came to answer the request to teach us how you're doing well at developing some relationship that turns into business.
Mark, I love that. Why do you, I mean, I'm just curious, why do you think kindness and connection are missing from so many financial conversations?
I think that I don't know what the stat is on this. Like money is something that people don't talk about. Like they don't talk about their sex life. They don't talk about politics. They're just things that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
So I think if you could be vulnerable about some things around money and how you were raised with it, it
Hmm.
allows yourself to realize why you're the way you are. So just normalizing that for people, couples, and then realizing that money's just the tool. We don't have to be a slave to it.
Yeah.
Money should be able to implement and empower you to do what it is that you want. If it's travel, if it's to give away to charity, if it's to have more time. There's a book called Buy Back Your Time that I read and stopped mowing my lawn. So there's just all sorts of stuff. Time is a thing that we can't get more of, but money certainly is.
That's right, the unrenewable resource, right?
Hmm.
So tell me, how has serving others shaped your own career and decisions?
I'm blessed that I was at a company that was smaller when I started 20 years ago.
Hmm.
When a company's small, you got to do everything, right? And it meant I spent a lot of time behind a computer, and I missed the being around people part. I'm still very technical and I like the financial planning piece of it, but I like variety.
Hmm.
But as time went on, we hired and it created more capacity to be out. And when the founder said, if you really want this business to work in terms of succession, we've since transitioned the business to myself and a few other owners, and he is retired in Florida, living his dream, is that you need to grow it. But I didn't want to do the whole, you have to grow it or you fail like a lot of finance businesses do. I just want to pay it forward and see where the chips come back. And they did in sometimes a longer time frame than what you want if you're expecting sales, but I'm not going anywhere and I'm not greedy.
Yeah.
So it's certainly taken a while to see a big return, but it's returned in ways that I didn't imagine that aren't also money. It's best friends, new mentors, new involvement in the community and not-for-profits. And there's stats out there that I should probably put some framework around, but the feeling you get from helping is more than the money you get from doing it, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. It's so much more meaningful and so much more impactful for your
Well,
life.
scientifically, like the serotonin levels get higher if you give money to a charity too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I love that. And I want to just jump back because I have a question about something you said, just this last moment. Why do you, not why, but do you see a change? Because you mentioned earlier how people don't want to talk about sex life. They don't want to talk about their money. They don't want to talk about, do you see that culture changing? Do you see a shift there? Because I feel like people, and I could be wrong, I just feel like that's becoming less and less a hidden thing, not just money, but talking about sex lives, talking about people are becoming more bolder and more
Politics, they're certainly talking about
free.
more.
Right? I mean, let's
When
go
it
down
comes
that
to
path.
money, yeah, when it
Yeah,
comes to money
yeah,
and health. I was raised a family where if my dad was getting in the hospital for an appendix, just a normal thing. It's not even a big deal. You
yeah,
do not tell anybody I was in the hospital.
yeah, that's
Same
right.
thing with money. Like,
Hmm.
we don't even talk about it.
Yeah,
And not that it has to be a brag thing, but it's like it's okay to talk about where you're spending your money because it shows your priorities. Like if someone shows me their budget, I can just like or tax return, I can uncover things. Or in the same way, someone can show me your calendar and I can tell you what your priorities are. It doesn't hide, right?
hmm,
And I'm at a phase where there's a lot of convenience things because I have young kids. So even though it wouldn't say daycare costs, you could look at it and say he didn't have enough time. He's spending money on daily conveniences.
yeah,
But it's interesting how people spend their money and it changes over time too.
yeah,
And what you experience just in Kansas City, a great person and a networker just passed away last week.
sorry.
So she was single, involved in the community, 40, my age in her early 40s, and it's just kind of like, what should you be doing differently? There's shouldn't be regrets. I know even if I die today, there'd be regrets, but I've traveled, I've done stuff, but the best is yet to come, and I don't want to miss that, right? But
Yeah.
everybody has an expiration date, and making the impact and being proud of what you've done is important at any age.
Yeah, and start sooner than later, if I could say that, because we're not promised tomorrow,
Oh yeah.
right? So if someone's listening and they feel frozen, Mark, financially, what's one small place they can start?
Um, Frozen financially would mean that they don't know what the next step is. Even my wife and I have a financial planner. It happens to be on my team, so it's not like I'm going to some other company, but the
Right.
outside perspective is what's important there. So
Okay.
like even though I might make the decision, I'm the professional, it needs to be another perspective that brings in the dialogue with my wife and I that says, Mark, you are saving too much money. Bridget, you're right. You should take another vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that is good to get from someone else. And I think if the people that are listening know that there is an industry, I'll call it fee-only financial planning, that also isn't trying to sell you something. They're giving advice. And yes, you might pay a fee for it. Typically, those companies are happy to do no cost, meetings about how they can serve and help you, and introduced the idea of considering different things. So
Yeah.
I would say connect with somebody like that.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what is a habit or something that brings people peace, not perfection, when it comes to money?
I think once our tagline of my company is where you stand, and we help people from wherever they stand. Standing in terms of, we're going to use the financial example now because what we're talking about. Once you know, so many people I meet with in the beginning were like, I don't even know what I have. So how do you know where you stand or
Oh,
where do you want to go? And
exactly.
sometimes it's three 401ks at three prior employers from 20 years ago, and they haven't looked at it and they don't know it's doubled or whatever. I say get a good feeling for where you're at from I have, this is my net worth. So even if you have no investments, nothing, you might have equity in your home. Like you might have a car. Yes, it's a declining balance or it depreciates, but knowing that you have something, and of course, if it's a young person, the biggest, I guess, resource you have is your ability to continue to earn an income. So looking at where you're at and what the future could be and what you could do with that is your biggest asset, and that's what we help direct that with. But finding out where you stand, to play on our tagline, is usually helps people feel better about knowing where they're at. And some people have negative net worths.
Yeah.
Doctors, we work a lot of them. They graduate finally when they're 30, $500,000 in debt, and yes, they make great money. But at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm better off that I didn't go that direction because I started earning money at 22 without
Yeah.
debt.
Yes.
So it's all relative, but
Yeah.
knowing where you stand is important.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because when you think about seasons of life, right? When you think about the season of life that I like, I'll just say for myself, that I'm in, what matters more now than
Oh yeah.
even 10 years ago?
Yep.
What are some of the things someone in my season of life, which is later in life, that should matter and that you should be looking at?
I'll admit that I'm finally to a point in mid-career. So I'll probably work another, work 20 years at the company. I'll work another 20 more, and I'll still be in my early 60s. So I might do it
Yeah.
longer. But the learning from the experience of helping others without, I'll just say, with the curtain taken back. Some people will show a show and it's not even true. Like look
Yeah.
really wealthy, but they're dead. But doing that for 20 years and seeing the little things that we recommended 15 years ago pay off 15 years later
Hmm.
allows me to tell the stories of the impact, or to see people transition, or to see helping a couple go through divorce in their late 50s because the kids are gone. But I know clients that have done that and turned out on the other side, and as much as it's bad now, he met the woman of his dreams. She realized life wasn't about a partner and did something like, it can all
Yeah.
work out the way you design it. And right now in the middle of it, it doesn't look pretty, but I believe it's designed in a way that's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
if people can kind of see it that way, it makes going through it easier.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think, on the other side of the coin, right? Younger, kind of the entrepreneurial spirit and the entrepreneurial content creators and things like that don't offer you benefits, a 401k, an IRA,
Mm.
whatever it is. What do
The
you
gig
say?
economy.
Yes. What do you say to them? How can
uh,
they
I
start
love
to
it.
save for the future?
Yeah, there's the tax code is made for business owners.
Hmm.
There's plenty of things you can do from the perspective of saving and setting up individual 401k plans. I mean, that's just getting into specifics. But the other thing is building something bigger than yourself that you own, that you direct, and if you could build it in a way that it's transferable and
Hmm.
sellable, that's exciting for me. So in the last 15 years, I've attracted, because I like talking about succession planning and legacy, a lot of business owners. And so I'm also in a peer advisory group that I've joined about 4 months ago with other business owners, young, old, and all different businesses. And it's fascinating to watch because there's no right way to do it. And if it's yours, you don't have to answer to anybody. But
Yeah.
you can also fail. But
Yes, I'm
failing
aware.
doesn't have to be looked at as failure. It's
Yeah.
learning, and
Yeah.
you're not done until you give up.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to fail to 3 times to find the one business that's going to thrive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun part of being a business owner. And I tell people, and this is, I guess it's not really a joke. I believe it. The real way to build massive wealth is two things: own a business. I think that's in tax perks and everything else. And then the second one is choose your spouse wisely. They
Yeah.
either, not just for divorce, but they either support you and what your dreams are, or they take away from it. And if it's the right spouse, 1 plus 1 can equal 3, I think. You're both
Yeah.
better because of it. And sometimes that's hard to do because you can't control the other person, but it is an
Yeah.
important life decision. And young people are waiting longer. I did. I waited till my mid 30s, and it's happily ever after so far.
It's been great. I love
Yep.
it. Well, thank you for that valuable insight because I think the landscape is changing and I think we need to be more educated on and the younger crowd needs to be more educated. This for me is our kids and our grandkids and how to, make sure that they know what to do going in if you're not going to have a company, a 9 to 5 corporate
What
job
benefits
that's
at
going to
all?
pay, yeah, or
No, no benefits. Health
right?
insurance.
Health
Yeah.
insurance, life insurance, like disability. What do you do with all that? So to have somebody that helps guide you through that, especially in today's landscape, is so huge. And if someone remembered you, Mark, for not for what you did, but for how you showed up, what would you hope they'd say?
Yeah, that reminds me of a saying that I lived by for a while is people don't care they don't remember what you said or what you did. They remember about how you made them feel. I think it's Mother
Yeah.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that thinking of this friend that just passed away, like you remember the good stuff, obviously, but you remember how passionate they were about the things that drove them. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that saying. I don't, Mother Teresa, maybe Maya Angelou,
Yeah, that is
right?
it,
Wasn't it?
actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And she said, they'll
But
forget
it's
what you
so
said,
true.
but they will never forget how you made them feel.
It's so true
That's
because that's the
huge.
details. And even in my life, I can tell you that. Or
Yeah.
someone came back after 15 years recently in Rotary, and I was in leadership at the time, and he just remembered how I was leading, not that I was a great. Yeah, it's just interesting what people remember.
It
It comes
is,
back
and
around.
it does, and I'm so thankful to hear you say that. I think it's so important. Okay, Mark, it's time for just a little fun. Before we wrap it all up, we're going to do our 60-second drawer
Mm.
dash where I just throw out some
I just had
random
DoorDash show up
questions.
with food before we got on. I'm a fan for
This is
convenience.
it is, and this is our version of it. We like to put a little play on words. So I'm just going to throw some questions out at you, not to do with financial at all, more probably a little more personal. And you just answer one way or
Hmm.
another. Early bird or a night owl?
Both. I
Okay.
I don't need much sleep. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I go to
Yeah.
bed at midnight and get up at 5:30 to 6.
My gosh, Mark, that's
Yep.
crazy. That is crazy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. And a book that you recommend often besides All for One?
Let's do Promptings by Cody Bateman. It's about
Love that.
acting on your promptings, whatever that is.
Whatever that is. One habit that you swear by.
Um, I don't know if you're going to ask my favorite quote, but it reminds me of it, and it's don't let the things you want make you forget the things you have. So habit of being mindful and grateful.
So good. And what's a kindness that you've never forgotten that someone has showed to you?
There's a five love languages book,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My wife is quality time. I'm not so much, but I will tell you that there are people in the past that just invested time in me, and I'm talking mentorship.
Yeah.
And years later, that meant a lot. So I would say those people that believed in me more than I believed in myself helped push me there.
So good. Mentors, just invaluable. Something that always calms you.
That's a good one. I'm not a calm person. I'm,
No,
I'm
I would
I'm pretty
never
high
guess.
strung. I'm pretty high strung. I'm drinking Mountain Dew, and it's not reading. You know what it would be is I love travel, and I haven't done a lot of it with little kids in a pandemic before that, but
Yeah.
just I become a different person when I know that that's to look forward to, even if it's months
Yes.
before. But
Yeah.
when I get to the plane, the rest of it can turn off. I laugh more. I have more fun. So
Yeah.
unplugging for our international travel and specifically hiking, I love hiking when I'm doing some of those trips. So that would be one of them.
Okay. And the last one word for this season of life.
This season of life, I just did Reiki last week. We could even talk about that. And
Wow. Is that
it
new for
was,
you?
I've done it once before. I did it on December 31st with
What'd you
a
think?
woman who started her new business. It's great. I love it. I did it as a
Amazing.
recalibration and energy, and you're familiar with it, it sounds like.
Yep.
But I'm trying to figure out what the word was. And it was this chapter is, I guess I would say reflective because I've been in the business 20 years. I'm not stopping anytime soon. But how do I want the last, I would call it half. I'm halfway through a
Yeah.
40-year career.
Yeah.
How do I want that to be? Because only I decide. Like,
It's true.
otherwise, you bounce and life figures it out for yourself. So I'm being
Yeah.
mindful about that right now as we're in this new year, new season time.
Love that. And
Yeah.
Mark, so, because we've connected before. So remember, we have a tiny dare that I ask every one of my guests to leave our listeners with something small that they can do maybe in the next 24 hours, easy, that supports their life, not overwhelms it, but that they can implement right away and start to do. And it can be anything. It can be in the financial realm. It can be a personal. What would something you could offer the listeners?
I don't have the book here, but I mentioned it a bit ago. Promptings is where I started and committed to sending personal notes, and it's transcended into sending whenever I think of somebody a text. There's no agenda. Thinking about you, I met this person, they reminded me of you. Hope you're doing well. And if you can have a series of ways to regularly make sure that it's cycling through the people that matters, because when life's busy, you blink and it's been 4 months and you haven't even talked to a friend.
Oh my gosh.
So
I love that.
Act on the promptings, notes, gifts. I'm a gift fan. There's my love language, one of them. Favors, and then text.
Promptings. Mine is acts of service. I'm just so grateful when somebody helps make my life a little bit easier.
That's a favor, right? So that's mine too.
Yeah. Okay, promptings. And who's that by?
Cody Bateman, actually the founder of Send Out Cards. So he sells his card service as a part of a fantastic book, as you can imagine.
That is so good. I love that idea. And, someone just did this to me just the other day. It was a text. I was driving somewhere, I think to my Pilates class, and it was a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in quite a while. And she just said, hey, I just, happy Monday or whatever day it was, just thinking about you. I hope you have an amazing day. I love you to pieces, and that was it. And I was like, well, I love you too.
The voice,
thanks for sending that.
People do it with voice texts, which I'm trying to go into in 2026. Yes. I'm getting like the old person that doesn't want to do new things. So I'm going to try to do that for like birthdays. Like sometimes I won't call because people are busy on their birthday. They don't answer. But a voice message, it's a different way of doing the same thing without an expectation of I got to answer and talk for 10 minutes.
I feel like, and this is my first year to say, I met with my niece the other day and she was like, what are your New Year's resolutions? And I said, nothing. I'm not doing it.
That is your New Year's resolution.
That is my New Year's resolution, to not have a New Year's resolution, because it's just, I think it's hype, it's gimmick, and I don't want to do it. And I said, if I could just do one thing this year, it would be to, one, send out my Christmas cards late. And two, to your point, Mark, send out just quick little voice messages or text messages to let people know we're still connected. I love you. I'm thinking about you. I hope your life is good.
And and to keep in mind, this friend that passed away, the last one I sent a month ago was the last one. You never know that either.
You never know. We're not promised tomorrow. I agree with that so much. Mark, thank you so much for bringing the calmness, the clarity and perspective to a topic that often, like you said, people don't want to talk about. I appreciate how kind and human your approach is, and kind of this pay it forward mentality. It's such a blessing, and you just don't find it often enough. And to our Sock Drawer family, gosh, take whatever stood out to you today and let it guide one small decision, because that's how clarity builds and how we take on one brave step toward our future. And until next time, stay brave. All right, Sock Drawer family, that's a wrap on today's Drawer Dump. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their story and their heart with us. Until next time. Don't forget, life's too short for mismatched socks. Retire the ones with holes, inspire the ones that still shine. See you soon.